Hello, this is Jim Coppin with Rankin Technical College. This video is about how to use the permissions within our routes. So we already looked at the is logged in, but let's go ahead and look next at has permission. So we're going to look at has permission, and then we're going to show some situations where we're going to have to do something a little different. And because when we put something on a route like this is logged in here, this is going to, if you're not logged in, it's not going to do anything in here, okay? But there might be some instances where we're going to need to do some additional logic. Sometimes we're going to want them to come in here. Sometimes we're going to not want them to come in here. When we start with the permission stuff, is logged in is kind of separate. It's a different. If you're not logged in, you can't come in here. Okay, and so if we actually go look at the lab here, and on some of these, it's going to say, you get down here, cannot access this route, right? So them are ones where we're gonna put that, we're gonna use has permissions right there on the route. And so if they do not have this specific permission, they're not going to be able to. It won't even go into that code block. It won't even go into that function. Okay. But there are some other instances where it's a little more interesting than that. It's a little more complex than that. For like in this situation where we go to update a bug, we need to know. So first, can they edit any bug, right? But then we have to do, can they edit if assigned to? So we have to check to see if it's assigned to. Who's it assigned to? So we're actually going to go into that function and we're going to do some extra checking to figure out who that bug is assigned to determine if they can edit it or not. Okay? And the same thing with this. Can edit my bug. Kind of the same situation. We'll have to see if they're the author or the one who created the bug in the first place, right? Either assigned to or if they created it, okay? Then they can edit it. So we have to do some special logic for that. So in them cases, we're actually going to want to come into the function. So I'll kind of show you how that works here. But many of them here are going to be cannot access this route, okay? But we're still kind of on users here, so let's go into users here. And for users, to get the list of users can view data, right? So I'm going to show you that one, and most of them are basically all the same here. For the users, it's basically access to the route. It's really when we get into the bugs that it's different, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this. So here, we're going to do something different. We're going to change this and get rid of this. And instead of that, we're going to add this here. Okay, has permission, can view data. I'm going to save this. I do want to go back and just mention one more thing here on the lab. So here on this table up above, here's all of the permissions for each route, right? So right here, we're doing this one, and it says can view data. Okay, so all of these for these user routes is going to be right here, all the way up until where there's bugs. So it's can edit any user, can edit any user. Okay, so I'm not going to do all of these, but I'm just going to show you this first one, and you'll just have to do the same thing for this one. And I know some of these routes you may have called these different things. You know, you may have a little bit of a different path here, so you need to be cognizant of that. But you're going to want to go ahead and enter anything that's on this permission things. We're going to enter that within our function, okay, using the has permission. Okay. So I have has permission, can view data. And if let me make sure I'm not logged in here because I was doing something earlier. let's see, I'm going to clear my cookies here from Postman. Let me bring this over here. So I have, one of my users is, this is one of my users. And like I said earlier, you need to make sure that you have a user with each of those specific roles, the developer, business analyst, etc. So you need to have one. This one here is myself, right? And I'm a developer, right? So you need to make sure that you have one for each to be able to do all the testing for these. Also, I just want to run this to show you. The server's running. So I hit send here, and you're going to get this. You are not logged in. Even though we don't have that is logged in, the has permission thing is also going to check to make sure you're logged in first before it's going to do anything with the has permission. So first you have to even be logged in, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and log in now. And once I log in, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our user list. And I'm going to hit send this time. And it's going to display all the users now. Okay. So just to show how this kind of works, I'm just going to, just for testing purposes, I'm going to change this to something different where I know that this user doesn't have that, right? And actually here, one thing that's kind of good to do is if you can, if you print up, hold on, let me see. If you have a log statement, it's kind of very handy to kind of see all of these. And actually this first one here, this is getting everything from the database. And it really doesn't specify the difference here. I'll just get rid of one of them. This is going to be all the ones that are going to be true, okay, for that login. So for that, when I actually clicked login, okay, this is going to show this. Actually, when it created the token. So this is for that Jim Kaufman user that logged in. These are all the ones that are true, okay? That's how it kind of merges this. It gets this from the database. So what I'm going to do here real quick before I do that is I'm going to just go ahead and here at the bottom of the user thing, let's get rid of this log. So we're just going to see all the permissions here. That's actually merged, okay? So that'll be in here. If you have this here, it'll be kind of helpful debugging. You can always grab things like this as well. You know, it kind of makes things a little easier there as well. Okay, so back to our path up here. So I changed this to can view data 3. And so we know that don't exist. So let's go ahead and open up Postman here. And now if I go ahead and click on send here, this is what we expect. It's going to say you do not have these permissions, and it has it listed right here, okay? So another thing is, you know, it's kind of very verbose here, how this middleware, this permissions middleware is returning all this. I have a way to clean this up to make this better. Let me kind of show you that. It's pretty simple. And you can just take this code and add this to your user. You can add this code to help with that. We'll also have to do it to the bug one as well. So you have to do both to the user and the bug. So let's go ahead, do that, show you this. So down here, I have it already commented out. So what we can do, and one thing you have to make sure when you're doing this is make sure that you have this at after at least your last route. You can put it at the bottom. You know, I still have these the cookie and the auth. You know, definitely you want to have it before you export, but you want to make sure that you have all your routes done first. If not, it won't work right. So you want to have this after all your other routes. And I'm just going to uncomment this out here. So what this will do is this is called an error handler. And so when an error is thrown from that, like that middleware that has permissions, it will actually execute this, okay? And then what it will do, it's going to kind of create a little more friendly type message to come back with, okay? So I would go ahead, this is just a few lines of code. I'd go ahead and type this in, put this in yours, and I'd add this both to your user.js file and your bug.js file and any other ones that you may be having routes in as well. So you have some maybe comments, depends on how you set things up. So, but anywhere you have your routes, go ahead and just include this. It probably makes more sense to do something a little more generic than that, but this is one way, obviously. Don't want to duplicate code too much, but just go ahead and add this. Okay. And now if I go ahead and go to Postman, we still have that can view 3 in there. We still have that can view 3. Let's make sure I still do have that before I say I do. So I'm going to go back here at the top pretty much. And can view 3. So it should still fail, but you'll see a different kind of message now. It's a little more user-friendly. And this will come in handy also when we have a front end, so you can kind of parse through that a little bit. You don't want to display something like this. This is kind of a nightmare here. So I'm going to hit send here. And as you can see, it returned this object, this JSON object, status error, a status code of 403. You do not have permission. You do not have these permissions, and it lists the one you did not have. Okay, so you don't have to do this necessarily, but kind of going to be to your benefit as well, and makes it a little more. It will make things easier for you. Okay, so you need to put this back, obviously, and let's just make sure it works again. Okay, and now we're displaying our list. Everything's good. Okay, so the user one's not too complicated. Not too complicated. The bug one's a little more challenging, and I'm going to show you one of the ones we want to change on that. So, but first what we're going to have to do is when you come into your bug one, we're going to have to add a few things. So we want to go ahead and make sure that we import our middleware. So has permissions. So we want to save that. Make sure your path's correct. So, the same as we did to users. In users, we do things a little different. We're doing the fetch the roles. We're merging permissions. We're doing other things as well. We won't have to issue. We issue that token. We issue that token within the user. That's based on login, right? Based on login, and you also need to do the same thing when you you're gonna have to change your register one when you create a new user. You're gonna also need to put it on there as well, as far as creating the cookie, right? Creating the cookie and the auth token. But as far as in bugs, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, we don't have to worry about all that. Here we just have to use has permissions. Let me see, is there anything else? I think we should be good here. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is work through the example for updating an existing bug, because that's one's a little more complicated, and so let's walk through that a little bit. So let's get back to the lab here. And so for that route, this is the patch for the bug. So can edit any bug. These are the permissions. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to add these permissions onto the route itself, so that if a user doesn't have any of those permissions, it will return an error that they don't have permissions. So here we're just going to add that right here. So we have has permissions, can edit any bug, can edit if assigned to, and can edit my bug. Okay, so it has to have this permission, but we'll have to do something special. Obviously, can edit any bug. There's no problem. You come in, if you have cannot edit any bug, you come in here, you can do whatever you want. You're good. But these others, you're going to have to check. You know, you have to check the existing bug to see if you're assigned to it. Okay. So when you log in, you know, we're creating that auth token. That auth token, will have your ID. So it'll have your ID, and you're going to have to use the ID from the auth token and check to see if you've been assigned, if it was assigned to that ID, right? And the same thing for can edit my bug, right? You'll have to check. So when you create a bug, whatever you called it, create it by, you know, you may be create it by an ID, or you may have used the name author or whatever, right? And if you you'll have to also check that to see if the auth ID is equal to the one that's been assigned to that. Okay, so let's just take a quick look there, and maybe. Maybe we'll go look at the database real quick here. I only have one bug in my collection at the present time, so you can see that we're not worrying about the ID of the bug. Well, we need to do that just actually, you know, to look up the bug to get the bug from the database. But what we're concerned with for our permissions is the assign to user ID. Okay, and the other one is, let's see. Oh, yeah, assigned to, we need to like a create it by. Create it on. We're going to have to add something. So there's going to be some cases where you might have to add some things. Okay, so I'm going to, on this one, I'm going to create it by. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to object ID. I'm going to update, and so that is going to be the same. I just set it to the same one as the assigned to user ID, but that's how you can actually do, you know, if you ever need to, you can go ahead and, you know, directly change this just by clicking update here, or I'm sorry, you just click on here, and then over here on the right-hand side, you need to make sure that you have the right data type. In my case, you know, it'll probably start out by string by default, so you'll have to change it in this case to an object ID. Okay, it's not saying it's updated because I didn't really change anything, but so there you go. So now I've got to create it by also. Okay. And then what you'll have to also do in addition to that, so create it by here, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to update. You know, a lot of this is kind of updating things here and there as you go along. So here for when you create a bug and a new bug in the first place, what you're going to need to do here is do create it on. Let's just do this. See, now that you actually have, there you go. Since you have a eauth ID, and I think you're going to have to do underscore ID here. I think you have to underscore. And obviously the question mark, just in case this is null coming in. But once we start doing things, you know, you're going to have to make, for this lab, you're going to have to add things here anyhow. So you're going to be checking to make sure you're logged in anyhow. So, but now that we have an auth object, we can go ahead and created by whoever's logged in to create it, right? So I'm just kind of updating this. You're going to be having to update this at some point anyhow, right? But now we got to create it by with this auth ID. And let's go ahead and just for the heck of it, didn't mean to get off task here, but just want to make sure. Let's just go ahead and add a new bug. Here, make sure I'm logged in. I am logged in, but we'll just do it again. Add a new bug. Let's just, to make things easier here, so we have a new bug. And let's go ahead and hit send here. I'm going to create a new bug. Let's go back out to Mongo, and let's just click on bugs here. You can come up here, hit that refresh, and you got this new bug, and let's see, create it by. So now you got to create it by, and it does have the ID. Okay, it does have the ID. So, but actually, I think in this case, we really want to have an object ID, don't we? So we need to actually change that as well. So I went ahead and created this new object ID for created by an object ID with the auth here. So we can do that. I'll look at one more thing while I'm here. All right. So let's save this and let's create another new bug. Just for saving of time. Okay, and now let's go back to the Mongo database and see what we got here on this one. Hit the refresh. And this time now we've got a, now we have our object ID on this third one. Okay, that looks good. All right, so that's how you kind of want to do that. You're gonna have to fix that later. I'll just kind of ran into this. I really didn't follow this in you know, in succession of, you know, kind of, you want to do the other ones before we get to this one. I just kind of want to show you this update bug because it's a little more complicated. All right, so let's get, we already have our has down here, don't we? Yes. So we have our has permission. So we're gonna get in there, but now what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to do some checks. We're gonna have to see if it's assigned, if the bug. So now that we got that ID on there, we have to check if it's my bug or if assigned to, right? If it was created by me or if it was assigned to me, right? Either one. So what we're going to do here, and if you haven't already done this, you need to go ahead, when you update an existing bug, you need to go ahead and grab the bug first, right? You need to grab bug first, make sure it exists. And then when you do that, after that, what we're going to do here is, let's see, if current bug, and we can just do an if here. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. And so what this is going to do, okay, now within your code here, this is kind of, once you get into your code, this is great. This works great up here, but you really don't want to try to do has permission. Some students have. It's going to kind of return a whole object and stuff, so it's probably best not to do it like that. Now, since we did the merge permissions, those permissions are available, okay? So if we have this auth here, and you know, you should probably use a question mark here, right? And that. I actually got rid of something there by accident. you know, you probably should do those just to make sure you don't get an error like that. So what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, we need to, we're doing if it's not. So if we're, we're doing the opposite here, we're doing the negation here. So if it's not any of this stuff, right? If this doesn't, and if none of these conditions are true, then we want to go ahead and say you do not have permissions to this. So what we're doing is, if you have the permission, cannot edit if assigned to, and the current bug, okay, the current bug dot assigned to equals the auth ID, okay, the auth ID, and then and we have to check if it's not this one. So if any of this is, if all of these are false, right? If all of these are false, then it's going to go ahead and do this. It's going to give us that error, okay? And I tell you what here, yeah, this is probably the right way to do that. So if you want to go ahead and grab this code, if you want to copy this, type this in. So you're just checking to make sure that for each one of these that at least one of them is going to be good. So if all of them are false, if all of them are false, then we're gonna show this message. If all of them are false, if any of these are true, right, we're just gonna fall out of here and move on to the next thing. Okay. So let's go ahead and test this. So I'm currently logged in with my developer role, and my developer role is the one it's assigned to, and it looks like I actually even created the bug and assigned it to me. So in this case, it's going to pass even two of these, right? If we looked at the sheet here for the different permissions, so can view, yes. I can create a bug, right? I can create a bug. I can edit my bug. I can edit if it's assigned to, right? The only one I can't is I can't edit any bug, right? Can edit any bug. That's only going to be the BA. Can edit any bug is going to be the BA, okay? So what I think I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to log in as a QA. And it can't, let's see, a QA can edit. I'm going to enter QA because the QA is not assigned to this bug. So it didn't create it or assign to it. But first, let's make sure that I can go ahead and make a change. Right? So here's me. I'm currently logged in. And then, so I want to come in here and I need to go to a different route. I want to go to update the bug. And which one? I'm going to update that last one. So I need to grab the ID for that last one here, since it has all the data that we need. So we have to create it by, it's not the last one, it's this one right here, right? This has all the data we need. Has the create it by and the assigned to user ID and the create it by, right? You might have called it author, whatever, right? Like I said, though, if you don't have this, you're going to have to get this set up, okay? And you can go ahead and update you're creating a new bug, so it'll take care of that instead of having to come in here. I'm just doing this for us to handle this quickly here. So I'm going to come in here. Here's the bug. I'm going to copy that up there. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and hit send here. And it's saying that it is not found. Yeah, because I know what I did there. I copied this created by instead of the bug ID. I need the bug ID. Now we got the bug ID. I'm logged in as Jim Kaufman, which was the developer role. I'm going to hit send. You do not have permissions to edit this bug. Okay, I determined what's wrong here. So I had that little error saying I didn't have permissions when I should have, I believed. So if come in here, so when we're comparing the current bug, the assigned to user ID, which is an object ID, and the created by, which is also an object ID, when we're comparing that to the underscore ID from the auth, that underscore ID from the auth is a string, and this is the object ID. So what we need to do is whenever you've got 3 equal signs, if you recall, it prevents you from doing the type coercion. And in this case, since you're not doing it, it's not going to be equal. We actually wanted to do the type coercion in this case. So I'm going to get rid of that extra equal sign there. So now it's going to go ahead and do that. This is going to be equal to this now because it'll go ahead and do that type coercion between that object ID and that string. So let me go ahead and get this back over here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit send now. And now we went ahead and, oh, sorry. And so it successfully updated the bug now. Okay. So this one's just a little bit different in that you have to go also and check some things on the current bug, right? What you have in the database to see if it matches who's logged in. Okay. So let me show you. Let me just actually log in with someone else here. I'm going to log in with the QA to kind of show you in that case. If I log in with the QA, which is Sandy Jones, and it's kind of a good idea actually to get your user, maybe your emails of your different users kind of on a, little text file or whatever. So you know who's who because you're going to be doing a lot of testing, right? So you don't want to keep going back to the database every time. So just kind of a little text file or whatever. And so here I'm going to go ahead and log in with a different user now. And I should complain about permissions because they won't be they won't have it won't be correctly, it won't be the created, they won't have a created by date or the assigned to user ID won't be theirs, right? So let me go ahead and make that little. Let's go back to Postman here. And I'm going to go to login. And I'm going to do Sandy Jones. I'm going to hit send. Here, let me get rid of this cookies. I don't think that matters, but some strange things happen sometimes. I'm going to hit send here. Okay, now Sandy is logged in. She's a business analyst. She's a business analyst. Oh, maybe, I'll tell you what. Let me see, business analyst. Let's look at our thing here real quick. What can a business analyst do? A BA can edit any bug. So let's see what happens on this one here. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and edit this bug here. I'm just going to get rid of something here on this. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit send here. And if I hit send here, since she can basically edit any bug, she should be able to be good, and it updated that bug. Okay. So let me try with another user now. So that was, 2 of those scenarios. One we had assigned to and created by was the same, which was the developer role. This one was can edit any bug. So in that case, that was that code where you could edit any bug. She fell into that, right? So now let's go ahead and let me grab a different user. Let me grab the QA one. So Postman here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of my cookies again, clear all cookies, and I'm going to go back to login. And instead of Sandy Jones, I'm going to do Jen Smith. And so she's a QA. So let me click that. And you can see her role is quality analyst. And now if I go to try to update a bug with her, she should not have permissions to do so. Update bug by ID. I have the right bug there again. Get rid of something. And I'm going to hit send here. You do not have permission to edit this bug. And that's what we expect there. Okay. So I hope that helps you out. This is one of the, a different scenario. There's a couple more of these that you'll also have to do where you're going to have to kind of, you're going to have to do a little bit of checking for things. Here I'm doing the negation thing, so it'll just fall out. Instead of doing negation, you could do it the other way. And if it's this, then do all this other. But I'm just saying, hey, if none of these are true, you don't have permissions to edit this bug, right? That's all I have. Let me see. Yeah, I guess that's it. The one thing... The one thing you do want to do also that I did not do, we didn't receive the big long message in Postman because almost everybody has at least one of these permissions, right? They have the permissions. It's just we have to do this extra check. So this was what was returned. If we do it a brand new user didn't have any roles, then we'd actually have that big long message, and that's where we want to use that. Once again, we want to kind of use that event, the error handler. So and add that as well here. And actually, I'm thinking probably we could have just added this to probably the index.js and it probably would work fine. I'm just now thinking that. But so that'll help you, make the error message be a little better to deal with. Okay, so that's all I have. Please let me know if you have any questions. Obviously, you're going to want to kind of go. I know it's a big lab. There's a lot to do there. This is not necessarily easy. It's going to take some time to get through this. But please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, and have a good one.